Hello, my name's Daniel, and this is going to be a quick start guide on integrating the VR log plugin into your project. What you need to do to find the plugin, firstly, just ensure that you have plugins and double check that you have it enabled. So in logging, the VR log is enabled. Next, you want to go to your view options in the content browser and enable engine content and plugin content. In here, you can then find the VR log folder, and we have a maps folder which contains some examples, and then we've got, if we go to Epic Games, then we've got the default character from the motion controller, the motion controller pawn, and also the first person character. These are the stock ones you can get from the when you create a project. So if you're doing a new project, you're more than welcome to use these, but I presume you want to use your own characters, so I'll show you how to integrate them. What we're going to do is we're going to start with the motion controller, and then we'll go to the pawn after. So in the motion controller, let's move this on the right screen. There's just a couple of things we want to add. Firstly, we want to add a widget interaction component. This is only if you're not already using one. So if your game's already using a widget interaction, then no need, you should already have it. And I've also added a log location, and all this is a scene component, and it's purely to get a position. You don't need to use this. If you want, you can just make a note of where you want this to be, and that's entirely up to you. But I like having this because it makes it easy to manipulate in the viewport. And I've placed the thing just above the hand, and with no rotation besides spinning it around. And you can copy these values if you need to. Next thing you want to do is you need to integrate anything that's pink into your character, and you more or less copy and paste these as long as you didn't rename the widget interaction. So firstly, we have a custom event here, which we'll come back to in a second because you'll see the rest of that down the bottom. And then we have a quick thing here. So switching on hand, if this is the right hand, we just give the widget interaction a virtual user index of 1 and a pointer index of 1. Now, if you're already doing widget interactions, you will probably already have this. This is so that when you have two interaction components, which we do, one on the left hand and one on the right hand, then they work correctly. So this is kind of just general stuff, not specific to the plugin, but you would need it for the plugin. You can just copy and paste this directly into your controllers. Now, the bind on hovered comes up down here. Again, you can just copy and paste all of this into your project. What we have is a very simple thing where we have the myVR log, which is the BP VR log object, which is just a wrapper for the widget itself. And it contains all the settings, which we'll go through in a minute. So we just see if it's valid. If it is valid, then we close it and then destroy it. And if it's not valid, then we'll spawn it. And here we're getting a log location, getting its world transform, and just passing it in. We store that for future, then we attach it to the log location. Again, you could attach this directly to your hand and just pass in manually typed transforms if you wish, entirely up to you. And then in the myVR log, we call the open log function. The other little thing we do, and this is entirely up to you, you don't need to do this, but I have the widget interaction. It's got this show debug option, which is really handy. It just gives you a nice red laser casting to your widget, which makes it easy to see where you're actually pointing. And the widget interaction also has a handy little delegate, which is on hovered widget changed. And we simply bind to that, and then we say, is this valid? If it is, then we show the debug. And if it's not, then we hide the debug. What that means is if you point at the widget, you get the red laser, but as soon as you mouse off it, it goes away, which means you don't have a red laser that's currently in the way of your game and not part of your gameplay experience. So this is just a handy way to show it when we need it and hide it when we don't. And the bind on hovered here, so that was just coming off begin play. So on begin play, we do the bind. It's as simple as that. Everything here should copy and paste cleanly. Then if we go to the motion controller pawn, this one's even simpler. This is just passing the input and starting it. So currently we're using the right shoulder to toggle the log, and this just opens or closes the log. So if we just open this up really quickly, this was the event here at the beginning. So the pawn is passing into its hand to open itself, and then that either spawns it or destroys it. because it's a debugging component, you might want to put this on something like L or something on the keyboard, so you're not using up one of your motion controller keys. And then secondly, motion controller left trigger, this passes the pointer key click. So when you click the trigger, it passes a left mouse button into the widget. So again, nothing specific to the plugin. If you've already got a widget component, widget interactor, then you've probably already got this sorted. Again, you can use any key you like here. The trigger made sense for this, but if you want, put it on spacebar or on the keyboard, and then you don't have to worry about using a motion controller key. Though this you can use elsewhere, and you could always disable consume input. Okay, so that is actually it. That's how you integrate the plugin. Just to go through a few of the options really quickly with you, if you go to Blueprints and go to the BP VR log component, there's just a couple of options here, and you only need to worry about those really. So if we go to the class defaults, we can get rid of everything else here. Just collapse these down, collapse this down. So we've got a category called columns, and in here we have colors. And these are probably going to be fine for your usage, but it's currently a tmap or a map of the error verbosity to the color it will print as. Don't worry about fatal at the top, because if you ever get a fatal message, it will crash Unreal. It's hard coded into the fatal logging. But error, warning, and display, which are going to be your main three, I've just done to the standard red, yellow, and white. So you probably will never need to change these, but you have the option should you wish. Then we have the max log entries. When you generate the log, it will read back past logs in its memory. If you have this to 0, then it will load the entire log, no matter how long it is. Depending on how long you've been playing and what sort of prints you're doing, this could be a massive log and it could cause a hitch to your game. So I'd recommend having a max log entries. 200 seem like a good amount. It doesn't take any time to open with 200. But if you need to go back further, then just increase this number or set it to 0 if you want the infinite log. But just be warned about that. Use notification sphere is something we're not currently using. It's a way of showing a small sphere when you have an orange or red message. We don't currently use it, but if you wanted to set it up, the difference would be not spawning the VR log every single time, but keeping it consistently there and just opening and closing the UI instead. For now, don't worry about that. This is more likely a future update. And then lastly, we've got the populate old logs on startup. So this one kind of ties with the max logs. If you don't care about previous logs, every time you want to start the game, you want to start with a fresh log, then just untick this box. If you want to see all the old logs, then keep it ticked. Initially, when you're trying it out, you're going to want this on because it gives you a lot more to kind of debug and have a look at and see how it works. But once you kind of get into your real game and actually debugging, you probably don't care about stuff that happened in previous sessions. So getting rid of this means you always start with a clean log. And that's it. That is all of the options there is. You don't need to change anything else. If you're curious more or less how this works, then everything is commented. A lot of it stems from this log reader component, which is a wrapper for a C++ component. And this log reads the glog in the engine and binds to a output device. So that's basically it. It's quite simple to set up. If you need to see how it working, then you can use the log example maps and they just show it working, and the same with the FPS example, which I'm going to show now. I'm not going to load the VR one just because it never captures very well. So we just start in use the window and we can press L on the normal character. Then we get the log. Let's full screen this. And the widget interaction component means we can interact with everything. We can scale text. We can close. Well, this is just a clear. It just clears the current log. If you close it and reopen it, it will regenerate the whole log. If you don't want that, then you need to untick the populate old logs option. You can also filter by display messages, warning messages, and error messages. Oh, one last thing. The system outputs against different verbosities. So you have warnings and errors and display messages. But print strings always come out as a display message. Therefore, to color them, I'm using a keyword detection. So if we open up the example for Simple Printer, all this is doing here is printing some error messages. It's nothing special, no custom nodes. You just use print strings as normal. But the key thing here is the keywords. We've got display in this print, we've got the word warning in this print, and we've got the word error in this print. And you don't need to format it like this. You can see down here, I'm also a warning, is a warning message. It will come up yellow just because it's got that word warning. It doesn't worry about case, it doesn't worry about position. As long as you include the word error, then it will always be red. If you include the word warning, it will always be yellow. If you don't include any keywords, then it will just be white. So it's not the most ideal way, but I didn't want to include custom print string nodes because I don't want to change workflows. I want this to click into an existing project without having to go through and replace nodes with other nodes. The fundamental rule for this project was for it to work in existing projects without any custom stuff that you have to do. You work as normal and the log is just there. That pretty much wraps up the integration guide. I apologize if I've spoken a little quickly, but hopefully that is clear. The main thing is you just need to copy and paste pink commented code into your own characters, and the same applies to the first person character. You just copy and paste the pink code, and if you want to change the keys to your own keys, feel free. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope the plugin works out for you. If you have any trouble, join me on the Discord channel linked in the marketplace or on YouTube, and I will be happy to help out.